The Saints suffer a potential season-changing loss in L.A. as Drew Brees injures his thumb, and a touchdown is taken away from the Saints thanks to a blown call by the referees. The Athletics' Larry Holder tells us how the NFL tried to explain what happened. Plus, the Tigers start slow but dominate the Demons. Tulane stomps Missouri State. Southeastern nearly pulls a huge upset. And we dive into the fan psychology of the no call. The no call and now the blown call. The Saints just can't catch a break from these referees, especially in the game against the Rams. What up? Welcome to 4th Down on 4. I'm Ricardo LeCompte. New Orleans unable to avenge that loss in last year's NFC Championship game. The Rams dominated the black and gold and backup QB Teddy Bridgewater in the second half. The Saints also dealt with another blown call by the refs. Doug Mouton begins our coverage with that big play in the game.
Sure, by the end it was 27-9, and people will say, look, it didn't matter, but they'd be wrong. The momentum lost when this was called back is immeasurable. And on the field, Cam Jordan says he was positive it was a fumble.
You say a touchdown got taken away. I mean, I didn't even hear the whistle. I grabbed the ball 15, 20 yards down, and allegedly a whistle was blown. Clearly, I mean, a whistle was blown. Where normally you let the play happen. Any referee usually tells you you let the play happen, and then you go back and review the play.
It's tough. That's a tough one. Huge momentum swing, a lot of energy that was awarded to us, and then kind of sucked out, and we gotta try to go make a long drive, and it's tough.
From my perspective, it was a fumble from jump, and it's hence why there was no slowdown on anybody. Everybody was full go. Everybody understood what happened. I shouldn't say everybody. There's people are in their prime when they're in their prime, and sometimes they're not in their prime, but they were in their prime maybe a decade ago.
Everybody got a job to do. You hope they do it better, especially if it's a call that they miss, and then come back later and say they missed it. It's like it don't help. It don't change the outcome of that play.
When we get poor officiating or we get an awful call like that, we can't control that. So our focus this week is going to be on cleaning up the penalties and making sure we got the right guys on the field too.
And with Drew Brees knocked out after his thumb hit Aaron Donald's helmet, the Saints could not overcome. Brees will meet with a specialist, but it didn't look good.
I'm hoping for the best and just preparing for whatever the next steps might be according to the evaluation.
Next step for the Saints, get Teddy Bridgewater ready to play. Sean Payton said Sunday Taysom Hill was already doing too much to quarterback, and Payton is confident in Bridgewater.
Look, he's a pro. He knows how to win. He knows how to win in this league. So I didn't think we played particularly well around him. And I think when we watch that tape tomorrow, it's not going to be pleasant for some guys.
I'm feeling pretty good. Familiar with the offense after having a year under my belt, and I'm excited.
Those things will grab the headlines, but look, a lot of this game was won up front by the Rams. The Saints ran the ball 20 times for a grand total of 57 yards Sunday in Los Angeles.
I thought we got whipped up front.
Honestly, I think they were just more physical. We knew that it was going to be a physical battle, and we knew that the most physical team would walk away with the win. And it showed on the stat sheet and it showed on the scoreboard.
If you're not playing well up front, I don't care if it's your Hall of Fame guy or your number 3 guy, it's going to be difficult, and so we got to play better up front.
And anytime they got anything going, it was killed by 11 Saints penalties.
It's hard to win any game when every positive play you make it ended up coming back. It's hard to win any game, especially against a good team like the Rams.
A bad loss, a bad day, and depending on how bad Drew Brees' thumb is, hopefully one that doesn't continue to hurt long term. Reporting from Los Angeles, Doug Mouton, 4th Down on 4.
All right, Doug, thanks. Sean Payton has previously said your best stability is your availability. Drew Brees, the poster child for this. Number 9 has been durable during his time in black and gold, missing just one start due to injury over his 14-year career with the Saints. Now, Brees missed a Week 3 game at Carolina in 2015 after suffering a rotator cuff injury on this play against the Buccaneers. Again, he only sat out for one game. Now, we don't know how long this thumb injury will keep Brees sidelined, and that was the first thing Doug and the Athletics' Larry Holder talked about as both analyzed this loss to the Rams.
All right, we're joined by Larry Holder, of course, covers the Saints for The Athletic. All right, you were the official pool reporter with the referees. You talked to Al Riveron. What was the explanation on the Cam Jordan play?
Well, basically, he just went over what was said in the replay, but also did admit that they blew the whistle too early. And so last week, I didn't have to have any follow-up questions. They just admitted the mistake and said, we've got to suck it up and do a better job, basically. But this week, he said basically that they blew the whistle too early, and they are trained to let the play run through. That is what they are absolutely trained each and every game, each and every call, so something like this doesn't happen. But when human error happens, and it's human error, the best that they can do is just give the ball back to the Saints, and who knows what kind of momentum that would have had within this game.
Yeah, no question about it. Clearly ridiculously blown again. Moving forward, Drew Brees' body language said to me as much as any words that came out of anybody's mouth, he did not look optimistic about his prognosis for the next few weeks. Did you get that same feeling from Drew?
Yeah, first of all, he didn't really hide anything, which is telling. I think he wanted to be as honest as he could. And I think he is someone who, man, even when the chips are down, he's known as the eternal optimist. He's known as being over the top with that. And that is one of the glummest that I've ever seen him. And so I think there's definitely some concern there. And I would prepare Saints fans for Teddy Bridgewater and Taysom Hill, at least for the next maybe immediate future going forward.
Yeah, and I would definitely agree with that. And if it's 6 or 8 weeks, let's just say that, because that would seem maybe like the worst case scenario. If it's 6 or 8 weeks, can this team survive with a combination of Bridgewater and Taysom Hill over the next 6 or 8 weeks?
Say you go 6 weeks, say the Saints go 500 at that point, 4-4. Do I think they can overcome this? Yes, I do. It's different when you're thrown into a game like Teddy Bridgewater was, or say Taysom Hill, but he didn't play quarterback, obviously. But it's different when you have a game plan to go with. Like Sean Payton will have plays that he knows Teddy likes and cater to him. And so, and look, injuries, Taysom Hill was their third receiver by the end of the game. Shows you how banged up they were at wide receiver with some of the crazy injuries, Keith Kirkwood and Traquan Smith. So you come up with a game plan. I think they can win games with Teddy Bridgewater and Taysom Hill playing quarterback.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%, although this game, look, it's going to be remembered for the Cam Jordan fumble. It's going to be remembered for Drew Brees going down. But Sean Payton, I think the most honest thing and what really had the biggest effect, they got beat up front on both sides of the ball continuously all game. Agreed?
Yeah, I asked him about it, and he said they got whipped. And he was blunt, and we all saw it. I think every member of the offensive line had a penalty, which you don't see that. But it also goes to show you how good the Rams are. I mean, you're not playing the little JB team that you could beat by 60. You're playing one of the best teams in the NFL. Even healthy, I don't know if the Saints could totally win this game. So it's something, though, they have to improve upon. It's going to be tough moving forward if that offensive line is that leaky.
And last thing, to me, philosophically, if you're going to have a day like this, it's the good news is, and there's no good news, I don't mean it that way, it's September. And really, in September, no Super Bowl's ever been won or lost in September. You got some time, hopefully get Drew Brees back at some point in the not-too-distant future. Agree with that?
Right. I wrote a column about it leading up to this game saying it's the only favor the NFL has done for the Saints in months, maybe a couple of years, that they put it in week 2. It wasn't the national game in week 1. And it wasn't in Sunday Night Football. It was week 2. You get it out of the way and you move on with your system. Obviously, look, they had some warts last week. They have definitely had some warts going after this. And so they're good enough to where I think they can improve.
Yeah, Larry, thank you. Terrific job. Back to you guys.
Coming up, we'll focus on college football, where Joe Burrow and LSU actually trailed Northwestern State early before dropping 65 on the Demons. Plus, a dominant win for Tulane over FCS opponent Missouri State. And Southeastern came close to upsetting the Rebels in Oxford. And later, why the no call actually brought New Orleanians together in a positive way.
Eye on the Tigers coverage is brought to you by Metro by T-Mobile, the best deal in wireless.
LSU was supposed to beat Northwestern State Saturday night. Going into the contest, the Tigers held an 11-0 all-time record against the Southland Conference squad. But with the Tigers coming off a huge road win over a top 10 team in Texas, a letdown was naturally going to occur, and it did for a half of football. It was pretty much a safe bet. LSU would pencil in the 800th win in program history against a Northwestern State team that just a Saturday ago lost to a Division II program at home.
Has it.
But the Demons got over the upset loss quickly and made school history of their own in the first quarter with their first ever touchdown against LSU in this series. The Demons led the fourth-ranked Tigers in Death Valley early. And even though the Tigers retook the lead on their next offensive drive, Northwestern State hung around, only trailing 24-14 at the break.
You got to give credit to them. They played their tails off in the first half, and we kind of weren't ready for it. And we just came in at halftime, refocused, made some adjustments, and played the way we needed to.
I felt confident that we was going to go out there and just keep on chopping away. And I didn't raise my voice that much at halftime.
Ed Ogeron didn't have to give a fiery halftime speech, just make a defensive adjustment instead.
We played more man. The zones wasn't working. We played more man. We tightened up our guys in man coverage. It worked. You saw us breaking on the ball a little bit faster. We almost got some picks. I think that was the biggest adjustment we made.
And it worked. The Tigers pitched a shutout in the second half, allowing just 78 total yards by the Demons.
Burrow aiming in zone, and it gets through and into the hands of Terrace Marshall.
Meanwhile, the LSU offense didn't need much adjustments because Joe Burrow continued his early season tear through the air. 373 and 2 scores. The senior signal caller also rushed for a touchdown. The Heisman Trophy candidacy continues to gain steam. On the year, Burrow has completed over 83% of his passes for 1,122 yards and 11 touchdowns.
Watching the way he's worked and the receivers worked all summer, all off season, is kind of expected. But it is kind of, you see it, it's kind of like, wow, 1,100 in 3 games, that's amazing. But he worked so hard, and you kind of knew it was coming, really.
Now it's a matter of doing it in SEC play. And the Tigers have 5 teams on the league schedule that are ranked right now in the top 60 in pass defense. Vanderbilt, LSU's next opponent, is not one of those teams. But the Tigers still want to keep the up-tempo offense on track, even if facing the 5th-to-last pass D in all of the FBS.
We're just going to have to keep the foot on the gas because we know how good we can be. We just can't take a step back.
I have no doubt in our offense. I still feel like we can still throw 400 yards on anybody we play against. So, we just got to stay focused and going to practice Monday with that mindset to, we want to come out with a W Saturday.
Meanwhile, Tulane's goal this week was not to allow their competitive loss at Auburn affect their performance this week against Missouri State. And the Wave responded with a rout uptown, as Andrew Doak reports.
And over to the left side, Jones, who's in. Touchdown, Tulane.
Saturday night at Ullman Stadium, the Tulane Green Wave put away Missouri State soundly, 58-6, doing it in a fashion that has not always been common.
In the past, we'd have to fight and scratch and claw with these kind of games, and we've obviously got better players.
Tulane jumped on the Bears early, scoring on 5 of their first 6 offensive possessions of the first half, and intercepted Missouri State 3 times, one of which was even returned for a score.
Last year, we got our hands on a lot of balls, but we never completed the play by making interceptions. We did that tonight.
The Green Wave offense racked up 540 yards, and in vintage Willie Fritz style, they ran it 52 times for 298 yards and 6 rushing scores. And after a 6-point offensive showing at Auburn, the Wave wanted to remind everyone to trust their new offensive process.
I was told by older, wise men in the past to don't go 0-2. Don't let a loss carry on to that next week.
And while the Wave did not let that happen, their next great test rolls into town this Thursday when they face the Houston Cougars. Andrew Doak, 4th Down on 4.
All right, thanks, Andrew. Southeastern nearly pulled off a huge upset of Ole Miss in Oxford. Midway through the third quarter, Rebels had the ball deep in their own territory. With the Lions, Isaac Adeyemi-Berglund strips quarterback Matt Corral, and the Lions fall on it. 2 plays later, Southeastern quarterback Chasen Virgil connected with Branson Schwerble for the score to make it 34-29.
We weren't shocked. We came out, we responded really well to all the adversity we faced. We knew it was going to be a test.
Afterwards, the Lions went for 2 to try to get within a field goal, but failed. And Ole Miss soon got a field goal to extend their lead to 8. Ensuing drive, the Lions got all the way down to the Ole Miss 28-yard line when Virgil threw an interception. And that was as close as the Lions got, losing 40-29.
We just came up a little bit short. And yeah, it was a great game, great team, great coaching, and it just came down to the wire. It was a good measuring stick, but we're ready to go on to the next game for sure.
After the no call, Saints fans proudly boycotted the Super Bowl together. And one local psychologist believes that was a good thing when it came to finally moving past what happened in last year's NFC Championship game. That story when we come back. Well, it happened again. Another blown call by the refs today in a game against the Rams, and this time it cost the Saints a defensive touchdown. Now, the city of New Orleans and all Saints fans just want a call to go their way and also get a little payback in Los Angeles for what went down on January 20th. Sports Director Doug Mouton reports.
Almost 8 months after the play, New Orleans will never forget, and Saints fans all remember their immediate reaction.
Disbelief. Couldn't believe what I just saw.
Sick, depressed. It just was heartbreaking to lose a game like that.
Frustrated, angry, upset.
I was hurt. I told my wife I don't want to eat no more.
And the way it's described often includes robbed.
We don't think we was robbed. We was robbed.
It is in a way like being robbed. You think everything's just fine, the world is a safe place, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, everything changes. And not only did it change, but it changed the course of the outcome. Right.
Dr. Michelle Moore is a clinical psychologist with LSU, and she's a New Orleanian. And she says she was not at all surprised by the passionate reactions around town, especially in the days leading up to the Super Bowl, which New Orleanians boycotted in massive numbers.
I was one of those fans that didn't watch the Super Bowl for sure. I refused to do that.
2 months. 2 months. I was hurting. I didn't want to look at nothing on the news. I said, forget that. I ain't watching TV no more. I told my wife, throw all the TVs outside.
Was there ever a time where you were just like, I'm done with the NFL?
You know what? I was thinking about boycotting it this year, but you know what? I love these people so much. I can't imagine doing it. I just can't imagine, boycotting it. I love the Saints so much. It's bigger than the NFL itself,
And that's well said, and certainly what we've seen through training camp, through the preseason, and through game number 1. The no call has not killed New Orleans' passion for the Saints, and maybe it's actually amplified it. And Dr. Moore says that passion is healthy.
I think it is really positive to have that level of passion and excitement for something, to have hope in something. That's positive.
Oh, we're ready to come back stronger this season. We're ready to go all the way.
That hurts. We got to put that behind us, and we got to move on from here on out. And this is our year. This is our year.
And that's actually a theme we heard a lot after a robbery, which for many felt like a personal violation. New Orleanians do appear ready to move on.
I do agree, and you know why? Because I think we're a city of resilience, right? I think we bounce back, we move on, we want to go on to what's next, and we don't want to sit in the past, and we don't want to wallow in feeling sorry for ourselves of what happened. I think we are ready to move on, and that is our resilience as a community.
Like Ms. Benson said, she said to let it go, you hear me? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to let it go.
You still mad?
No, people make mistakes. That was a huge one, and hopefully they learned from it.
People make mistakes all the time, but we're going to rectify the mistake this year by how we play. I'm not worried about it anymore. Like I said, it's always going to be back there, but can't let it affect this year.
I'm trying to put it behind me, but you know what? Using that as motivation for the super fans to get in there and represent and get this crowd loud. Like Sean Payton said, do your job, let's get it going.
And fans certainly did in the Monday night opener. For New Orleans, the Saints are the glue. Across all that divides us, the passion for this football team is the greatest uniter. When the Saints play, the city speaks with one voice, and it's loud.
Who that say ain't gonna beat them Saints?
And if you're in that number screaming, Dr. Moore says psychologically that's a healthy thing.
We talk about having hobbies and, having extracurriculars and things that you enjoy. So I think it is healthy to have a passion. It's healthy to feel really good about something, right? It's something positive. It's something hopeful, right? We all have hope for what the season's going to bring. So I think there is a really positive psychological aspect to that boosts people up.
Reporting with the Saints in Southern California, Doug Mouton, 4th Down on 4.
The health of Drew Brees will be the topic of discussion this week. Stay with WWL for the very latest on number 9's thumb injury. That'll do it for 4th Down on 4. For Doug, Andrew, sports photographer Adam Ney, producer Danny Rockwell, and the rest of the Eyewitness Sports team, I'm Ricardo LeCompte. Have a great week, and we'll see you back here next Sunday night.